So I'm super excited because I've been spending the last 3 or 4 days, about 8 hours a day, working with AI. Thanks to Pam, she's really inspired us. She did a training on how to use the tools of AI, and she uses them a lot in her social media. And so I've been playing with it. Once you get past that paralyzed, I don't know how to do it. Like I want to be able to do things, you can kind of see what you could do with it from what other people do, but not knowing how to do that. Once you get past that stage, it just, for me, it really sucks me in. That's the kind of temperament I am in. So I just dove right in and just kept going and figuring things out. And I'm excited to share today. Same content, right? The goal for doing that is to help the listener integrate more fully the information that we're sharing. And to me, that's so important. I've been spending 20 years now with Isogenics, 20 years. And put how many years you've been in Isogenics for our guests that are here. It's a lifestyle approach. It's not a quick fix. It's not a one and done. It's healthy people do healthy things every day. And that's why they're healthy. It's a principle. So if we can integrate those principles and help people to understand what those principles are, you could change somebody's life. And we're doing that, right? And that's what keeps me going. That's what gets me up on a Saturday morning, excited to share. Is it's going to change somebody's life. 17 years, 22
Wow.
years for Connie. I think you're the winner, Connie. I think you're the longest. You've been on it for 22 years. Why don't you tell your story real quick, Connie, and just your Reader's Digest version, and then we'll get started.
Good morning. Thank you, Dave. I started Isogenics 22 years ago. A friend asked me to get on because she had good success, and so I did. And I lost 10 pounds, 9.5 inches in the first program. But more than that, what I got out of it that really changed my life was I had debilitating headaches, the kind where you have to go in the bedroom and shut the door for 3 days. And I also had discomfort all over my body with pressure points and soreness going on. And both of those just went away. And just for the sake of being compliant, none of the products cured or healed any of that problem. What they did was give me the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrition that I was missing in my body. And the minute my body was starved for it, and it was trying to tell me, and the minute I got it in my body, I had those results. And so it has kept me going for 22 years. I feel incredible. And for my 82nd birthday, I decided to do something different. So I went out for a month and I practiced on these stairs. And then for my 82nd birthday, I double stepped them. I was 40 steps. I double stepped them. It was fun.
Well, then tell us, real quick, the whole you moved into the, retirement mobile
Okay.
home park and
So before I got introduced to this program, I moved into a senior community. And because of all of those challenges, I just cried a lot because I heard a lot and nobody had answers. And so I said I was just going to get a rocking chair and sit there and rock until the Lord calls me home. And I got started on the products, and so quickly, I can't tell you, it just changed and everything went away. And I had energy, I had mental clarity, I was having fun, I felt good. And so I brought the rocking chair in the house and rocked my 6 grandkids with it, which I didn't know if I was going to be around for. And I said, Katie, bar the door because I'm going out and tell the world about this because everybody needs to feel as good as I feel. And I still feel that way 22 years later.
yeah, I love that story because that's life, right? That's quality of life. And that was over 20 years ago. Like you were going to
Mhm.
just, that's where you were at. And I know that feeling. I was 36. I wasn't 62. I was 36 when I
Okay,
felt
are
that
you
way.
ready?
Here's your
Ready?
82nd birthday.
Come on. Double stepping.
And there's no way you could have done that before, right?
No,
20 years
no.
earlier.
Woohoo! Yeah. Do it again. Going up. Okay.
And I love that even people that, think they feel good,
Okay.
once they get this nutrition in them, they say, I didn't even know I could feel this much better.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. Even like athletes, they don't know they can perform that. They feel like they're at their peak, and then they say, "Oh, I wasn't at my peak."
Hmm.
All right, actually, I'm going to mute this out. Let's see, is Rhonda here. I don't see Rhonda. I'm going to make you a co-host, Bev. You can
Okay.
co-host with me today. And Debbie Beebe and Jeff Beebe, they usually, are on to co-host and Rhonda, but and Bev, you do as well, and Malcolm, if you want to chime in. But let's go ahead and get started. I'll mute this out so we don't get any background noise by accident. If you want to type questions in, and we'll make it interactive, I'll ask questions. You can type them in. Oh, Pam, I'll make you a co-host as well if you want to chime in. So this can be fun for me to be able to share, and it's not completely done as far as the AI, but where I've gotten to, I feel really good about it. And there's a few more things that I want to do, but I'm excited to share this. So thanks for allowing me to share my passion with you today in this new format. Okay, so this was me back in August 2005. I've always had an issue with fatigue, even when I was a teenager. My mom took me to the doctor and said, he just sleeps all the time. Doesn't matter how much sleep, he just sleeps all the time. And I slept in class. The only thing that got me, C's was I was in sports and I did well in sports. And so the coach would talk to the teachers. And finally, my senior year, one teacher would not budge. So I dropped out of high school my senior year. And that was very debilitating. And they just said, well, they checked everything. They did these tests. They said, he's just growing. Well, at 36 years old, it was worse than ever. I'd literally fall asleep at a stoplight. I would put it in park. I'd have cars honking at me because I'd fall asleep. I'd fall asleep at the parts counter at work. I was a mechanic waiting for parts. It was terrible. And that's really debilitating in life, quality of life, the interactions with people. And, I used to feel that way. I don't anymore. Isogenics changed it all. And that profoundly changed my life. So you can understand why I'm so passionate about it. That's usually what happens with people who become successful at something. They have such an experience that they want everybody else to feel that, right? And here I am 20 years later, and so many of us in Isogenics feel that. I was stuck also. I was just willpowering through, even though I didn't feel like it. I was eating super healthy. I was writing. This is as far away as I'd ever been in that first picture from where I was, when I was younger and what I was used to. And I was riding my bike to work. It was 100 miles every 5 days, just pure willpower, eating super healthy, juicing, wheatgrass shots. You don't do those because you like them. Eliminating all of the junk food that I craved and was eating, to get through the day. The only thing I kept doing was just massive amounts of caffeine to get me through the day. That was everything else I eliminated, and was just eating super healthy and exercising. And it wasn't working. That first picture right here, from here to here, is 25 days on Isogenics with no exercise. I'm going to show you in our clinical, because they didn't have exercise in the clinical, we released 4 times more fat than eating the Mediterranean diet, which is a whole food diet. And they put on muscle and release fat, 4 times more muscle. So I experienced that in my first month. And that fatigue went away. If I had to take the weight back or the fatigue, I would take the weight back. I wouldn't even think about it. Give me the weight back. I don't want to ever feel mentally like I did before, but I didn't have to give any of it back. It's so cool. And I didn't feel like I was on a diet like I did right here. And so these were the 3 products that I got on. We have a 30-day reset program, and this is basically, the pillars of health that are in that, along with a few other things. We're going to talk about these 4 right here as pillars of health, and then we'll just give a snapshot of these here. Isogenics is just an incredible company, no compromise of quality. The brains that they have on how to scientifically formulate so that it's assimilated into the body, and to make a wide spectrum of nutrients in each one of these. Not one has only one ingredient. It takes a wide spectrum of nutrients to get assimilated and to feel and look different. There's our disclaimer, like Connie was saying, with natural products, you cannot make claims that the natural products are curing anything. It's the body that does it. The body has an innate ability to heal itself. And if you give it the right things, you're fueling the systems that do that. Well, this is a report from the Surgeon General, Casey Means. She was #1 graduate in her Stanford class, medical. And then she was a surgeon for like 7 years. And she said, my patients were getting sicker and sicker, and they were coming back for the same surgeries over and over. And they had other specialists, and they were getting worse in those areas. And I didn't know why. And when she tried to find out why they didn't really like that, And she said, I just had to put the scalpel down and walk away and find out. Well, we didn't join her bandwagon. She's recently joined ours, right? This podium where we're letting people know it's because of nutritionally deficient and toxic foods and the environment that we live in. And it's got to be something that's really fundamental to have these kind of percentages. 74% of adults are overweight or obese, and 50% of kids. 18% of teens have fatty liver disease, like they're developing diseases before they're teenagers. 77% of young adults are unfit to serve in the military. This is 3/4 of the population, in these categories. 50% of adults are pre-diabetic or type 2, and 30% of kids. It's just, this is, again, a very fundamental issue. And Bev, I'll have you, elaborate on this. Let me just go through a couple of these things and have you elaborate on some of the things that you've known and being in the ICU for over 20 years. And so nutritionally bankrupt toxic food, on average, they find 72 different pesticides in the fruits and vegetables that are being sold in our grocery stores. It's probably worse now because that was like 10 years ago that study came out. This is one that I learned early on, and this is a UCLA study. In 2007, it takes 51 bowls of spinach to give you the same amount of iron that used to be in one bowl of spinach. And iron is essential. You got to have it. And, 51 bowls of spinach, I don't know, you just can't do it, right? And over here, you look over here, these are, about 8 different minerals. It's not in the soil anymore. The organic water-soluble minerals have been depleted out due to use of pesticides, and they killed the organisms that produce those from the rocks. And that started like in the 1940s, and it's just gotten worse and worse. And so what happens is these nutrients fuel the body so that it can, operate, defend, and repair. Normal everyday operation. Connie wasn't able to operate on a normal level. She had declined, right? At 62 years old. Well, at 36, I had some areas in my life that wasn't allowing me to operate at a normal level. I was below the normal level. And it's because of these micro and macronutrients. And so what happens is we're hungry all the time, and they've so messed up the food system and the pyramid, the food pyramid, and the food itself and the ultra processed food. We're hungry all the time. And so this guy right here, I mean, it's what is it? The word insatiable appetite. You're just constantly feeding. We're the most overfed, undernourished country in the world. And as a result, we're seeing diseases and all of these things go off the charts like we just showed. So, again, there's a reason, a very fundamental reason. You are what you eat. So Bev, you've known about a lot of these things, and we also learn an incredible amount when we get into isogenics, it goes beyond the normal stuff.
Yeah. The education around this company is world class. But as all of these nutrients are disappearing from the soil and from the food, these chronic diseases are skyrocketing. And in the ICU, everybody was there due to some type of chronic illness. And the results of it or complications from it. And another thing, you were just talking about iron, and out where I'm working now, there's an incredible amount of iron deficiency anemia.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking at that, and the big cause of that is inflammation. Inflammation starts a cascade that keeps the body from absorbing iron. So when you use our system and you read things like our adaptogens, our cleanse, and you reduce inflammation, it's actually a great and effective treatment for iron deficiency.
That's interesting you say that. We're going to talk about Ionic Supreme in a little bit. And I've helped several people who needed iron transfusions not need them anymore just from the Ionic Supreme, which helps with stress and all the adaptogens. And it also has blackstrap molasses, which is a form of iron as well. So yeah, I mean, all of these things, the pieces of the puzzle fit when it comes to isogenics, right?
Right.
We're not given hype. This is all pure science and immutable principles and lack of principles as well. So when you're on a program like this, like Food Matters, the Guider Institute, the lady that Mrs. Guider, I guess I'll call her, owns that institute. And she said, you can't get your nutrition from the grocery store anymore. You have to supplement because it's not in the food, because it's not in the soil. And but the problem is that I've learned and I've read the studies and it makes sense, another piece of the puzzle fitting. I did supplement and I still didn't feel different. So many of the supplements are compromised. As an example, there was a study called Bogus Supplements, and they pulled over 20 different supplements randomly off the store shelf. And none of them had what they said were in it. Not one, not even close, less than 10%. All of them, all of them had less than 10% of what they said was on the label. And that's just, the first thing I'm thinking is, why isn't somebody in trouble? Why aren't people in prison? Why aren't people being shut down? That was my first reaction, right? And now I'm, not so gullible and naive anymore when it comes to companies and profits over people and greed. So you can't build a lifestyle and you can't even build a country. 70% of young adults are unfit to serve in the military. You just can't do it. And, we want to help turn that around. You can see some things where they're talking about red dyes because of RFK. Yeah, red dye is bad, but that's not even the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that are wrong with our soil, with our air, with our food, with our water, that unless you really tackle it on the level that Isagenix is addressing it, you're going to be hit and miss, and mostly miss. I was miss. I didn't almost never felt better. That's why I turned to the unhealthy stuff to get energy and get through the day, not be hangry all the time. So ultra processed food has gone crazy and we're eating so much more of it as a country. That's why the kids are sicker than they've ever been. When you drop below 7 on the pH scale, so this would be chlorine and bleach at the top. This would be battery acid on the bottom. So they're diametrically opposed to each other on the extreme. And we know in a pool, if you put acid in and you put chlorine, it makes that water pH balanced and it's pristine and it's glistening and there's no disease, or not disease, but impurities like the green stuff that starts to form in the pool, like my friends growing up, if they didn't put the chlorine and the acid in there. So the body's the same, over 70% water, and you can test your own pH. You want to be 7.0 to 7.5. When you drop below 7, it's making the body more acidic. It's actually called acidosis, but you're on an accelerated course to disease and death. And so the Surgeon General said children being born today, this is about 15 years ago, won't live as long as their parents. Well, processed food really was presented like where they started processing whole food probably in the 30s and 40s because of big factories and big cities and lifestyle changes. But it's really, I'd say the ultra processed food probably kicked in the 80s and in the 2000s. I mean, flaming hot Cheetos, right? So I read a study that said over 70% of Americans are eating over 70% processed food. So that fits the piece of the puzzle with those numbers we showed and what the Surgeon General said about children, because their bodies are becoming acidic. And the result of that is that rise in disease that we saw on the other side. Because if you're not producing life, you have to be going one way or the other. You can't just maintain, you're going one way or the other. And it's the processing out the nutrients and putting in cheap fillers. And so, again, that's like building your house on sand. I think we've all heard it, right? The wise man built his house on a rock and the foolish man built his house on sand. And when the rains came and, the house was destroyed, and we're seeing people be destroyed. There's no question about it. Anything you want to add to that, Bev?
Well, we're seeing people die younger and younger,
That's right.
for sure. I'm surprised, well, not surprised, but amazed at with all of the advances in medicine and pharmaceuticals, how many people don't even make it to age 65.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So again, fundamental issue. So Isagenix, they created one of John Anderson's first things he did when he started Isagenix in 2002. He formulated for over 600 companies, over 2,300 different health products for all kinds of companies. And he had his own private label manufacturing lab in Arizona. And so companies would knock on the door and say, hey, John, make a product for us that does this, this, and this. And he said, not one time did the product ever get to the consumer the exact way that I had it on the paper. The quality of the ingredients, where you get them from, that makes a difference. And just taking, well, let's take this out, and profits over people. The companies wanted bigger profit margins than what it would cost, but they would somewhat follow his instructions. He said, I got some good products to market, but not what I knew I could. And he even formulated for Joe Weider. I remember Tony Escobar, who lives here in St. George, and one of our early leaders in isogenics, he said, I'd work expos for John Anderson before isogenics was even, brought about. He said, I'd work expos at these health expos. And Joe Weider came up, hey, where's John? I need to talk to John. I need to talk to John. So that's who John Anderson was. And he literally searched the world over for micro and macronutrients. There are literally nutrients here in our stores because of John Anderson, bringing them back to the United States. So the first thing John did was create a food source where we could fix the gap of that nutritional deficiency in our foods. And let's put it all in a canister. It takes about 90 nutrients. You got your minerals, there's about 60 of them, then your key vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids. And so if you're taking in those 90 nutrients on a daily basis at the proper amounts, you'll be at homeostasis. You won't be at acidosis. You'll be 7.0 to 7.5. I measured my son, who started on the shakes when he was 18 months old, when he was about 6 or 8, and his friend Blasian was over, and I measured both their pHs. His friend was low 6, which doesn't sound like it's that bad, but that's bad. That's terrible. That's pretty much a lot of processed food, lack of nutrients going in. Carter was right at 7.5, right at 7.5. And you can see the behavior differences, right? There's closer to 200 active ingredients in this. And now we have whole food vitamins being sustained thanks to isogenics, inventing how to keep whole food vitamins in their molecular structure after they're pulled out of the fruits and vegetables. It took us 5 years and millions of dollars. But now we don't have to use any synthetic vitamins. It comes in a little bottle where you can take them, and it's also in our shake. And nobody's ever done it in 100 years since they came up with synthetic vitamins. An example of that is if you squeeze orange juice from an orange, the vitamin C will only last for about 24 hours. Then the molecular structure breaks down. So that's the same thing. And nobody's ever claimed to do it. They just will advertise they have whole food vitamins or liquid vitamins. I tried those. They didn't work. They're more expensive for sure, but they didn't work. I didn't feel different. You feel different on our vitamins. And then the protein we get out of New Zealand, we don't heat it up. It's cold pressed. The amino acid profile is the highest profile on any protein, better than egg whites. You'll absorb over 90% of everything that's in that shake, including the protein. So we get people to homeostasis right away. What does that do? It changes your appetite. It changes your appetite and your cravings, big time. Alkaline bodies do not crave acidic food. It doesn't mean you won't crave them every once in a while or want to indulge, but that's fine. It's not like a diet, right? We just need to give the body what it needs to get the bad stuff out and keep the body performing and operating. You have organs that will get rid of the junk, but most people aren't putting in those nutrients to get rid of the junk. So it just keeps building up inside the body. Anything else you want to add on the shake? I know that you love the shakes, but you didn't come in for the shakes, but you love the shakes now.
I hug my shake canister. I bookmark my days with the shakes. I have one in the morning on my way to work, and I have one in the evening, and then I eat in between. So it's not about deprivation. It's just about getting the nutrients into our bodies, and then our bodies balance themselves out. It's the easiest thing we've ever done to feel the best we've ever felt.
Yep. Change your breakfast, change your life is what we say. I've done 2 shakes a day for 20 years. And you got to think about it. Where's my little, oh, there it is. Okay. So if you look at this, when we decline in the minerals, the disease is going up. What if you reverse that and you get back over here? Where's the disease? It's to a minimal. There are so many doctors. I've heard so many stories. I don't know how many, like dozens and dozens and dozens of people saying, yeah, the nurse was so shocked that I'm not on any prescription drugs and I'm 70 years old, right? And so, well, that's because of principles. You're always cause and effect. There's always going to be a result for something we do. You start fortifying the body. I'm not making claims around curing anything. I'm just saying, look, it's a principle. Nutrition and the principle of the human anatomy. Get those nutrients back in, and this is where we're operating at, over here, not over here. We are on a mission. Like, we should have 1,000 people on this Zoom, right? So I just love this information. And like we said earlier, the education. This is a clinical study that Dr. Paul did, and it was published in Nature's Communications, which is the gold standard. It's one of the hardest, if not the hardest, to get into. And it was a human clinical trial of isogenics versus the Mediterranean diet, which is your whole foods, nuts, and your proteins from, fish, chicken, pork, or beef. And they paid the participants to be on the study. And the group on isogenics did 1 intermittent cleanse a week and 2 meals from isogenics a day. And then they had their normal meal, like you just said, how you're operating your life. That's how I operate my life: 2 shakes a day and a meal, and then I snack in between as needed. And then you had the group that was doing this over here. We release 4 times more fat and put on 4 times more muscle. The body's building back up and balancing and getting rid of the fat as a side benefit. No exercise in this study. Like my results that I got that first month, I released 27 pounds with no exercise, where before I was exercising. And the people that were on isogenics actually ate more calories than the people that were on the heart healthy diet.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the reason why they have no exercise is they're trying to eliminate the variables in the study. They want to see just what the system itself will do.
Good point. We don't encourage not exercising, but the guy that got me started, super fit. He did Fit for Life and took 2nd place in the country. This guy was like a specimen. And he said, "You're exercising like a maniac." And I just want you to not make the mistake of thinking that you're exercising that's going to give you the results that I know you're going to get the moment you start putting these in your body. So he said, "Well, I don't tell the other people this, but I'm going to tell you, don't exercise for your first month. If you want to go for a light jog or a walk, that's fine. But don't do all that other stuff you're doing." It was crazy. I was running stadiums. I was lifting weights, riding my bike. So yeah, no exercise. I released 27 pounds, just like the clinical study. I felt stronger. I remember like tightening my fist because I could feel my muscles in ways that I couldn't before. And he said there were a lot of outliers in this. One of them was that you have 45 to 60% of people quit your study before you end it. Even though you're paying them, they quit. He said only 1 person quit on isogenics. And the 45 to 60% was the same with the Mediterranean people. He says that was so far out of the norm. And also your company didn't make me sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. He says that never happens. Like, that's so rare, especially with a nutritional company. Because if I find something, I could totally ruin their company. And he said that shocked me up front. So I knew something was up. And then he said the 33% decrease in visceral fat. You never see that, not with exercise, not with diet. Right? Never happens. So he said not only did it outperform the whole food diet, we saw the body responding in ways that we had never seen before. He's now in the 1%. He got the notice from the company that monitors it, and he posted it on Facebook and it went viral. He's in the top 1% in the world of scientists that have been cited because of their study. Top 1%. Let that sink in, you guys.
Class.
Yeah, exactly. There's nobody who's doing what we're doing nutritionally. Nobody. I'm not saying there isn't good companies out there with something that's good. I'm just saying nobody's doing it like we are. So this was the gentleman that was in the clinical study, and that's a 4-month result right there. It was 6 months, but that's 4 months right here. Listen to what he says.
He was 62. He had the greatest change in body weight loss, body fat loss, visceral fat loss, and gut remodeling. This is his gut remodeling right here that I'm showing you. We followed him because he lost 105 pounds in 120 days. His doctor called me and she said, this is unbelievable. I've been working with this patient for over 30 years. He's tried every diet known to humans, and he's never had this type of a response. His liver enzymes, his kidney enzymes, his blood work, he's reversed his diabetes. And I know, many of you aren't able to say this, but I can because I documented it in the study. He reversed his diabetes. He reversed his high blood pressure. He reversed his high blood lipids. All of those. Amazing. I'm going to end here because I think this brings it all home. Look at his gut in the picture on the left. This is in 4 months, 120 days. He lost 105 pounds. He reduced his body fat drastically. His waist circumference just fell off. His blood sugar, again, he was diabetic. He went from diabetic to non-diabetic. He was hypertensive to non-hypertensive. Total weight, fat, and visceral fat loss was upwards of 58% improvement. Gut microbial diversity was a 25% increase. And then the reduction in GI symptoms was 50.
Okay, so I want to just back it up a little bit and just make a notice here. So like you said before, you didn't say it today, but you've said it before, Bev. In the ICU, you can only help people so far, and then you can't get past that. There's like a ceiling, and their health
Right,
isn't improving, right? And here,
right.
this guy under that healthcare, supervision for 30 years,
Yes.
they were not addressing causes like Casey Means, the surgeon said, right? People are getting sicker and sicker. They're not getting better. And here's an example of that. And then once they get on the nutrition and fuel those organs to fuel them so they'll operate, now it's going to defend and repair, right? So incredible. So I'm going to get into some of this AI stuff that I've done now. For those of you that, I've been saying and being excited about, it's coming here over the next few slides. This is Don Layman. Like Dr. Paul, Dr. Paul serves on an international board of protein. There's only 7 scientists in the world on it, and he's on it. Don Layman's one of his colleagues, and he's super, up there in the world of protein. And listen to what he says here.
Remember, I said what I was doing with my master's degree. We were studying the age-related changes. What we now know is that as you get older, the efficiency of that protein turnover goes down. So where a 16-year-old, you give them a certain amount of protein, they'll have a very good response. A 65-year-old will have maybe no response at all, or 10% or something. But what we have learned, sort of with the study of leucine and initiation factors and all of that, is that if you give an enriched source of essential amino acids, more protein, you can actually make the adult look just like the 16-year-old. So what we know is that the efficiency goes down, but the capacity to respond doesn't. And so what we're now thinking is that what we now know is that we can get the adult, the 65-year-old, to respond just the same as the 20-year-old as far as muscle protein synthesis.
So this is a 2-hour interview with Dr. Peter Attia, and I'm going to break some of it down for you right here. He said you need about 3,000 milligrams of leucine, that's an amino acid, and then if you get the right amount of enriched protein, you'll put that muscle on a 70-year-old like you would a 16-year-old. Age doesn't matter. So it could be 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old. And so if you look, let me play this real quick from Dr. Paul, what he's saying about protein.
2 would be we eat too much protein. Nothing is further from the truth. We're on a completely downward trajectory since 1970 in terms of the quantity of protein we eat. I'm on a mission with the protein pacing calculator and algorithms at proteinpacing.org to completely change that. And it's all going to start right here with Isogenics.
So he still works at the university, but he's our chief science officer now. He's never partnered with the company, and he has amazing results. He's in his mid-60s. He's an avid competitive tennis player. He'll fly around and do tournaments. And he says you need about 1 gram, and he's done over now 100 human clinical trials. And his specialty and what he's passionate about is nutrition and how it impacts the human physiology. And he's said he's on a mission for this protein pacing. You should be taking in about 1 gram of protein per your ideal body weight. So if you want to weigh 130 pounds, you need about 130 grams of protein a day. Now, if we break that down and combine it with what we learned from Dr. Lehman, you need at least, as you age, the ability to put on muscle is still there, but the assimilating that protein is where it's different. So in order to get past that, 3,000 milligrams of leucine with about 28 to 30 grams of protein per meal when you're doing that. Now he's saying 3,000 milligrams of leucine a day. Well, 1 serving of Isogenics is going to give you 3,500 with the performance protein. And they're all about the same. They're all about 3,000 regardless of the shake you're doing. But this one's 35, and this is 36 grams per serving. So we're nailing it with Isogenics. I'm like, Malcolm, we need to get a hold of Dr. Lehman, right? And show him what we're doing. Because he said to do it with food, I'm going to say it's impossible, but it's almost impossible to reach these levels, especially with the leucine. He said, you won't be able to do it with a plant-based diet, just purely plant-based. It's the milligrams aren't there. And then also the protein as well. And getting all of the other factors with that protein, right? And you start looking at food sources, how many eggs would you need to eat to get to, if you want to weigh 130 pounds? And you only absorb about 70% of the protein. So it's even less than 6. A piece of chicken, about 25 grams for a 4-ounce piece of chicken, but you're only going to absorb about 30% of the protein from that. And then when you cook it, how much of the leucine is still there after you've cooked it, right? So, and the microwave processed chicken fingers is not going to do it, you guys. And that's the diet most people are on. So this is a big deal right here. Was somebody going to say something? No. Okay. So look at Bill Foster. This was him before starting Isogenics. This is him 6 months later. This is him 8 months later. Bill's right there in Reno. Thanks to Malcolm, he's on it, right? So I made this little video here.
What we now know is if you give an enriched source of protein with the right amount of essential amino acids, specifically leucine, a 70-year-old will experience protein synthesis exactly like a 16-year-old.
There it is. We've seen this over and over and over. Like, we've been building this off of the observationals and our experiential, knowledge that we've got. Now we're starting to understand why. The leucine is a big deal, but so is the protein. If it's mostly oxidized and dead because the way it's been processed and heated up, that isn't going to meet the requirements. And this is why we see this over and over with Isogenics. So I want to go into another one of the pillars now, and that's cleansing. And supporting the organs with the super nutrients that aids the body to chelate out the bad stuff. So we're gonna hop over to our cleanse for life, which I'm doing a cleanse day today with this powdered cleanse right here. So there's been, I just found these numbers yesterday or the day before. 100 million synthetic chemicals have been recorded by the CAS. That mankind has created. They've invented over 100 million synthetic chemicals. If you add organics into there, it's over 200 million, but that's not going to be as harmful as like your synthetics, right? And this is Newsweek magazine showing that we were teaching people this before science discovered it. And we got a lot of ridicule from the health professionals, even Dr. Oz, right on TV. Because Isogenics was making some big headways in the beginning and we still are, but it was in the news because it was like all of this new things that was happening with weight loss. This is a toxin right here, and this is a fat cell. And they've learned that your fat will absorb the toxins to hold it in there to protect and isolate them from your organs because they're not leaving the body. So you look at how overwhelmed we are in the system and how undernourished, toxicity has become a huge problem. So we have nutritionally supported cleansing. Again, I'm doing it today. And what they did in the clinical study that we showed was 1 cleanse day a week, 6 days of 2 shakes a day, and the Ionic Supreme and a few other supplements. Now, if you do a 48-hour cleanse, which they did not do in the clinical, you see a lot more results health-wise and weight loss-wise doing a 48-hour cleanse. Intermittent fast. Now, this is nutritionally supported, so it's not really fasting, but we're not taking in the shakes, we're not eating meals, we're resting those organs and keeping the body in chelating out an uninterrupted way of the body detoxing itself, ketosis. So in an unhealthy body that's not getting the adequate amount of nutrients, they're bombarded with the chemicals just like everybody else. It's in our air, water, and food, but the body can't handle it. And so what happens is these toxins come right on through and they will build up and go in your fat. They'll also, the reason the body's doing that is trying to keep them out of the organs. You ever hear carcinogens? Those are things that cause malfunctions in the cells and then they turn cancerous and then they explode, right? So that's why the body's trying to keep them out of the organs and put them in the fat. The body is intelligent. It's blinking your eyes right now and breathing you, right? Well, it's trying to protect you. The way it should be doing it is getting rid of them, but it's not because the body's not fortified to do it.
Fat cells do more than store calories. They lock away heavy metals, pesticides, food dyes, preservatives, even metabolic waste, keeping these toxins from hitting your heart and other organs.
So that's the whole idea. Now, science has caught up with what we were teaching starting in 2002.
Fat cells do more.
So what happens is the more toxins that come in, You don't make more fat cells, they just expand. So the more toxins, the bigger your fat cells are going to get, and then it's going to put those toxins in those fat cells. And so in a healthy body, what we want to do is fortify the organs so that they eliminate those toxins. And with our Cleanse for Life, there's about 100 active ingredients in there, but you're looking at aloe, licorice root, burdock. This is from the Food Pharmacy. It's a book where it shows the clinical studies and what they found about a bunch of different botanicals. It's really thick, like a dictionary. I have it, thanks to Susan Sly. And chelators of heavy metals, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, address candida, gout. I mean, all of these have been proven to do that. Well, these are some of the nutrients that are in the Cleanse for Life. And so it's helping these toxins, let me go back here, to remove from the body. In the clinical study, we removed 300% more toxins through the urination process. So what happens is when you eliminate the toxins, guess what happens to the fat? As a side benefit, it dissipates and goes away because it's not needed for that reason. You don't need 200 pounds of stored energy, right? It's there for a purpose. And the obesity is 30 pounds or more overweight. And it's not because the body thinks you're going to go into a famine. It's not because you're getting older. It's the toxic buildup. So again, 300 times more toxins released through the urination process in the clinical study. And there's only 2 machines that will measure that in the way that it did on the entire planet. Dr. Paul says, I have one in my office at the university in my lab, and the other one's in Europe somewhere. So they were measuring through the urination.
And this is often why people will lose weight initially, but then they'll hit a plateau.
Mm-hmm. We're going to show that next with the AI. I'm so excited to show that slide. Yeah, go ahead. Finish talking. Finish sharing this because it'll set it up.
Yeah, you hit this plateau because the body doesn't want to release those toxins into your bloodstream. But with the Cleanse for Life, the liver is just flooded with this great nutrition, and it can rev up and it can handle the toxins now. So now they get released, and the liver breaks them down into water-soluble components that can then go out through the urine.
Exactly. And these are very powerful but gentle botanicals. And aloe, that is going to help heal and restore. So why do we see cholesterol go down? Because aloe heals better than cholesterol does. And we're getting rid of the things that cause the scarring that causes the cholesterol to rise, right? There's so many factors that go into this that people are just not being taught the correct information. So on a cleanse day, like I'm doing today, you're going to do 4 ounces 4 times a day. So I'll do with this, the powdered form, 2 scoops 4 times a day. And so this canister or that bottle would do 2 cleanse days, a 48-hour cleanse. If I did the 1 canister or the 1 bottle would last 2 weeks in this example of the 24-hour cleanse. So there's these little snacks that I'm eating. I need to keep my blood sugar up. I need to get my aminos, my proteins, my fats. They're done in little wafers, but it's not putting the body into digestive mode. I feel great. I feel incredible on my cleanse days. I love cleanse days. I look forward to them because of the results that I get out of doing them. So this is visceral fat that was done in an MRI in the clinical study. And you can see the fat that's full of toxins around these organs here in the MRI and even around the waist. And this was 33% reduction. But look at that big piece of fat. It's gone. That's the most dangerous fat, is visceral fat. He says this never happens in any study I've ever done. No exercise, no nutrition, no diet has ever done this. This is unprecedented. So now we can start to see why this stuff being published has caused him to be in that 1% of people and scientists in the world that have been cited now. So I love this slide here. I've had a slide before, but this, with what you showed, Pam, and what we can really help people to really get, right? So when we go on a diet, you don't want to go on a diet, right? Because the first 3 letters are die. You're going to die. We all know that. So here's the toxins stored away in we call them obesogens, right? We'll talk about that in a second. They're tucked away, and then I'll also put them in the outer extremities. because that's away from your organs. So you'll see the scarring in the feet and in the, the swelling and the inflammation in the hands and in the feet and also in the face as well. That's not eyes, those are toxins. It's not crying, although I was crying. So when we go, let's show this video.
Fat isn't just padding. It's a vault of stored calories, little packets of potential energy. When you move, your body cracks open those packets and turns them into fuel that powers every stride.
So when you go on a diet, you're not eating as many calories, right? So the reason why the fat cells shrink is because it's going to the energy that's stored away as fat. But what does that do to the toxins that were stored in that fat cell? It releases them. When I saw this, I was like, that's what happened to me. I was a mechanic, toxic, like playing in chemicals all day long. And so you release a little bit of weight, and now the toxins are, there's a greater proportion of them now floating in the bloodstream. The body totally knows this. It's an alarm that's going off. Intruder alert, intruder alert. You won't lose any more weight right there. That's the plateau that you were talking about, Bev. And we all know about plateaus. If you've dieted like I have, we could relate to this guy.
Nope, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
I've been there so many times. I probably did the diet thing, and I did extreme things too, like fen-phen. I did fen-phen, you guys, and I've done the extreme stuff, and that always happens on a diet because you feel like you're going to die. And what happens right there? You give the body more calories, and so it pumps out more protective stuff, and you gain the weight right back. But what did we do? The body tucked them back away in the fat. That's why we gained the weight back. We didn't address the toxins. That was such a big revelation to me. So obesity and toxins, obesogens, there's a new word. I don't know if Isogenics came up with that, like Peter Greenlaw or somebody, but this is a big deal.
Ever heard of obesogens? It's when your body uses fat to wrap up harmful toxins, like packing peanuts around glass, locking them away inside fat cells. The catch? When that fat burns, the toxins flood out.
You cannot overpower the body, and it doesn't matter how much you're exercising. The whole calories in versus calories being expended through exercise doesn't work. I've been there, and I know a lot of other people have as well. Very frustrating. So that's where I was at. I was about ready to quit my eating super healthy and extreme exercise program because I wasn't losing any weight. I was tired. I was a clock watcher. When's it time to eat again, right? I was hangry all the time, and I wasn't getting the results. So what did we do? We quit like that guy, right? But this time I did something different. I cleansed. In the middle of a plateau, I released 27 pounds in 25 days with no exercise. And I did 48-hour cleanse. I actually did that 4 weeks in a row. 2 days, 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. And that's the results I got. And remember, I'm not just cleansing, I'm taking in the nutrition and the shakes. And I didn't feel like I was on a diet at all. I'll show you the benefits of cleansing. 20 years now, 53 pounds. The benefits, I get to enjoy foods that I could never eat on a diet. I maintain the weight loss regardless of eating those things, which I don't eat as much. Some things I don't eat at all anymore. I just don't, it's like my body doesn't want it. It's rejected. And I like donuts and soda. I haven't had soda in 20 years. Mental clarity and energy, free from the effects of toxins. Remember, those are carcinogens. Those need to be out of the body. Maintaining healthy cravings, right? So those are the benefits. And it's life-changing, you guys. And everybody wants to look and feel great. You want to feel good and comfortable in your clothes. We don't need to be on in front of a magazine. That's extreme when you take it to another level, like Wendy did right here. She had never competed, and now she's a 3-time world champion when her body wasn't responding anymore. She was a PA. Her husband's a medical doctor. She now does isogenics full time. She's changing people's lives, taking them past that ceiling that you were talking about, right, Bev? Mm-hmm. She's doing isogenics full time. But, you probably want to say something about this. This was a big revelation for me right here. Anything you want to add to that?
Oh, to the cleanse?
Yeah, just what we've gone over so far.
Well, our air is polluted, the water is polluted, the soil is polluted. So it's just ubiquitous in our environment. So to cleanse on a regular basis, it's health maintenance, really.
That's right. on a regular basis. They actually turned that study from a 6 month to a year long. The people that were on the diet started rebounding in all of the bad ways. Any progress they made started going backwards. And the people on isogenics just continued to get better and better. And you can see it here, right? Heather, 126 pounds, no hanging skin, her abs. This gentleman right here, I don't know him personally, but Jeff does. And he said all he did was just isogenics, didn't change his workout. You know, Bill, my results, Dr. David Noonan. Heather's now a health coach thanks to isogenics, right? Kind of like Wendy. She's a life coach now, 3-time world champion professional bodybuilder, all natural, never competed in her life before getting on isogenics. Chase, too skinny, wants to gain weight, use the same products, puts on 15 pounds of muscle. But look, you can see the obesogens there. That fat, gone, cleansed it out. Extreme athletes, they love isogenics because they want to be in this kind of shape, right? My BNI president, there's Bill, Jeff Beebe, 65 now, and he looks the same as he does here. I think he's about 60 there, 65 now. Kenya released over 439 pounds, People Magazine 2018. She's all over Facebook about isogenics. She's down about 530 pounds now. I have a new picture of her. I didn't put it in. Oh my gosh, it looks incredible. I mean, this one looks incredible, but she's got a whole, anyway, just amazing what's happening. And there's my son, the one that I told you I did the pH strips. He started at 18 months. He's probably about 2 there, 3. Anyways, there he was at 14. He's 22 now. He's our youngest of 5. Just the pictures, they don't stop, you guys. You see the issues not being addressed here, and now they're being addressed. How many people could relate to not wanting your picture taken? Like you're hiding behind other people in the picture, right? Because you don't want them to see you. And there she is, like, take the picture without a shirt, right? So again, that's frustrating. That's joy. You are what you eat. So one more here. Again, this is above and beyond, fitness and releasing weight. We're talking about life here. And here's Sarah now, thanks to Crystal sharing with her. Crystal was her OT. And this is 5 years later. Just incredible. So I would say right there, there's the 1-2 punch, the cleanse for life, the nutrition of the shake, making it a daily, lifestyle approach. And healthy people do healthy things every day. You are what you eat. Put in super nutrition every day, and you're going to be a superhuman. This pillar right here, probably the greatest breakthrough for mankind. We partnered up with the geneticist Bill Andrews, telomeres and DNA. I'm just going to kind of go through quickly here now. But the telomere is the cap on the ends of the chromosomes that hold the DNA together. As that telomere degenerates, so does the DNA. And it starts to cause micro problems, which become macro problems. So as the telomere gets shorter and shorter, we start to have more malfunctions in the human body. That's Nobel Prize winning research. So it's not how old you are chronologically, it's how long your telomeres are. Because you could have telomeres like this at a younger age, and that's happening more commonly now. And they're having, these degenerative diseases now at younger and younger ages. So it's called accelerated telomere shortening. In USA Today, it was back in April 2012 when I was lecturing around the country, and somebody had brought in a USA Today, and it said children's telomeres today are significantly shorter than they used to be. And it's because stress, preservatives, these chemicals, preservatives, trans fat, Bill proved they accelerate the telomere shortening. Addictive drugs and the chemicals that are in them, industrial chemicals that are in our air, water, and food. And that's why the lifespan is getting younger and younger now, where you're dying at younger ages. It's because the telomere is getting to here quicker. It's called accelerated telomere shortening. So typically in your youth, you're going to have longer telomeres. Not so much today, but yeah, they still are. And then as you age, your telomeres get shorter. Again, it's not how old you are. It's the telomeres. So this is why we're seeing issues now with degenerative diseases in younger kids that you didn't used to see until you were up in this area. Big deal. This is huge. This is Nobel Prize winning research. And so this is a clip from ABC News.
Scientists now say by looking at our blood cells and measuring those telomeres, you can get a better idea of how well you'll age. The longer the telomere, the better the chances for a more graceful aging.
That graceful aging is going backwards now, and we're seeing at younger ages, even degenerative diseases in babies before they're even born, like diabetes now. So Nobel Prize winning research, Bill Andrews believed in theory that this enzyme would give the cells the ability to repair the damage to the DNA and the telomere. It was only a theory. In 1997, he proved that theory correct. He identified human telomerase and how it was being manufactured in the cells in 1994. Human telomerase. Once he identified that gene, now you can start trying to manipulate that specific gene, and he did it successfully in 1997. And he was able to get human cells in vitro, living human cells, to reverse the damage in the DNA and the telomere right in front of their eyes. And then Harvard piggybacked on that, and they did it in mice, and I'll show that video in just a second. Now, his one issue that he was in a stalemate was, how can we find compounds that humans could consume to induce that enzyme? Because all they could get was chemicals. They tried natural botanicals, couldn't get them to work. We helped them with that, you guys. And now we're able to reverse the effects of damaged DNA and telomeres with the telomerase inducer. And that was released in 2011. And I've been on a mission to educate the world about this. I was mentored by Bill Andrews, and we've actually lectured together. We've traveled together. He said, Dave, you made the best presentation. You're taking a really complex science and making it easy for everybody to understand. And so here's the ABC News clip. And then right immediately following this, you're going to see a doctor who's put over 400 patients on the Isagenix and what he says about that.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding. But the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on. Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
So that was about a year. They were collaborating, Bill Andrews with our company.
If all you had to do was take
and
2 pills twice.
About a year later, our product was released. Then shortly after that, this news clip came out in Florida with Dr. Robert Watine.
Today to stay younger longer, but we got your attention now.
Scientists working with a company called Isagenix saying that they have promising results. Mike Holfeld looked into a latest version of the Fountain of Youth.
To be clear, it's a supplement, not a prescription drug. People that take it say they feel better and younger. Now, the medical community is starting to take notice.
Popular Science calls Dr. William Andrews the man who would stop time. The PhD in genetics work is based on the 2009 Nobel Prize-winning discovery of telomeres, the DNA on the tips of chromosomes that actually holds the key to why we get old.
You felt the symptoms of aging?
Absolutely. I was 40 and I felt like I was 50. Now I'm 45 and I feel like I'm 30. My physiology has changed 100%. It even shows up in my blood work. I had sluggish thyroid. I don't have those issues anymore.
But is this supplement a lot of hype or real science?
Their disease processes have gotten better by objective data that I use to assess a patient.
Dr. Robert Watine, a board-certified specialist in internal medicine, has documented more than 400 cases of patient recovery from hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, even cardio issues.
Only changed one variable, and that's given them this.
Remember the telomeres? Scientists discovered they protect our chromosomes. Each time our cells divide, a small portion of those telomeres shorten.
When the telomere reaches a certain length, the cell dies. That's cell biology.
But the Nobel Prize winning research found the key to that cell biology, telomerase, an enzyme that essentially lengthens telomeres, keeps them alive longer. Dr. Andrews and his research team says product B activates that enzyme in all of our cells.
That was an incredible thing to be a part of. I dedicated a huge part of my life and my time traveling for about 10 years to get this information out there. And thousands, if not tens of thousands of people's lives have been so profoundly, changed. This is Dick Sauter. I did meetings out there with him in Minnesota, and he's 83, about ready to go into the nursing home. And Amy's like, no, that wouldn't happen. We would move him in with us and we would take turns taking care of him. And that's about where we were at. And there he is at 84. There he is at 92. He's 94 now. And they said he wouldn't even be alive today if it wasn't for Isogenics. 94 now. His birthday's in July. This is Bill Foster, who I showed earlier, right? 6 months later, he did the telomere and the shake. And now this guy, I mean, he went from 134 to 181 pounds, but now he's 74 and he's bench pressing 315 pounds at 74 years old. He wants to break the world record for bench press for somebody over 70. I mean, look at that, from going from this guy to that. You guys, what's the cause and effect of that? These are not unique stories. I don't want to take anything away from them and the profoundness of it. These are a dime a dozen in Isogenics now. Well, let me show this one here. And then Bev, I want to get your take. Like, you met Bill and how much he thought it would cost for people to utilize this versus how much it really costs, right? This is Minnie. I was at their farm home when we took this picture. Her daughter was massaging her very softly. She was so hunched over, it forced her chin into her chest. And you couldn't have a conversation with her, not because you couldn't look at her in the eyes, but because she made no sense when you were talking with her. She's laying flat on her stomach here. 5 months later, you guys, what are we doing?
We have nothing in medicine that can do this.
Nothing. That's nutrition, supporting the body to restore the information that was lost. DNA, most people, I didn't understand what DNA was. I had never even heard of a telomere, right? But DNA is the intelligence of each and every cell, and they've got a job to do. And if you lose some of that information, it starts to malfunction. These cells are alive and living, but they've lost some information, DNA. You get that DNA restored and the information's back and it just course corrects on its own. They'd say like, oh, my back's really hurting right now, but I know it's adjusting. We've done that quite a few. There's a guy, Jim Shapirsky in Reno, that had that same experience. That guy could only work once every 3 days. Barely could pick up a bucket. Bob Sheridan, cardiovascular issues, his ejections. I forgot what the guy told me to call him. He says they're
ejection fraction.
Ejection fraction. There you go. Thank you. We're at 13. Not good. The doctor said, no, we can't do anything. We can't even put a pacemaker in your heart. If you were at 19, we could. Not at 13. You would never get off the table. And by the way, it'll never rebound on its own. It's never been known to happen. 6 months later, you guys, and he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. The whole boxing community, very famous, knew that he was in critical condition and about to die. Here he is 6 months later being interviewed by Fight News. And he talks about in that interview, they want to know what happened. They were expected to go to his funeral and he's back to announcing boxing matches. This is a year later and he got a ticket going 120 miles an hour. He bought a Corvette, you guys. Talk about quality of life and enjoying life, right? Again, dime a dozen. We've had three different people. One of them was in Sacramento. The other one was in Oakhurst. And those two said, we went in for a checkup and they said the batteries aren't operating in our pacemaker, but our heart ejections are fine. So they don't need to they said, we'll just leave it in there. So in case you do need it, that's already there. We'll just go put the batteries in it. His heart ejections went to 55, high, normal, 55 from 13, you guys. That's unprecedented, right?
Yeah. So back in the early 2000s, my then husband and I, we were at an event here in Reno and we met Dr. Andrews and heard him speak. And he was teaching about telomeres and telomerase. And at that, his research lab is actually here in Reno. It's called Sierra Sciences. And at that point in time, they had already gone through like 250,000 some compounds and substances looking for something that would induce telomerase in human skin cells. That's what they were working with. And the only things, as you said, they had found were toxic to the human body and could not be used. He had also a fear at that time that once they would put something together, that it would be prohibitively expensive to most people, like in the, $4,000 to $10,000, and that it would have to be given by IV infusion. And so that cost would be like, $4,000 per infusion. Uh, so he had some real serious concerns at that time.
He
So
didn't
that
even
was in
know
the
about
early
isogenics then, right? That was back in.
no, that was in the early 2000s. So then fast forward to March of 2024, last March, when I met Malcolm at a networking event, and I said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "I help people with their health." And I said, "Do tell." And he started talking to me about telomeres and telomerase. And I said, "Wait a minute." And I literally stopped him in his tracks. I said, "This wouldn't by any chance be based on the research of Dr. Bill Andrews at Sierra Sciences." And he looked at me and he said, "We were mentored by Bill Andrews." And it made the hair on my arm stand up because that was like 20, those two events were like 20 years apart. And when he told me that this product had been put together with all botanicals in capsule form and for less than $100 a month. As I like to say, Malcolm had me at telomeres.
I love it. And now your office, what did they tell you at your office on your birthday last year?
Oh, they said, "You are aging in reverse and you have more energy than all of us put together." And what I like to say is the funny part about that is I am the oldest person who works in that building. So,
Love it.
um,
Such a
yeah.
great story. Such a great story. Wrapping this up now, isogenics is the last of those four pillars. This, John Anderson, when he produced this, I think it was 2005, he said, "This is my greatest formulation of all time." And there was another nutritionalist who had lectured at Harvard. He said, "If I had to pick one product from isogenics, if I was stranded on an island, what would I want?" He said, Ionic Supreme. This thing is so packed with over 100 active ingredients, Ayurvedic herbs, adaptogens. Uh, Adaptogens are what the Soviets, they discovered them and they were dominating in the Olympics in the 60s and 70s because of these adaptogens. And both John and Jim Coover both had learned straight from the source in Russia, the scientist, about adaptogens and brought them to the United States. I mean, all of this stuff that's packed in here. So I made a little cape one time in Photoshop and just put a little cape on there because I said, this stuff turns you into a superhero. It's anti-stress, endurance. I mean, just it's like a little construction person with a tool belt that's a handyman that could fix anything going into your body. And so I did this with AI. This here is so much better than just photoshopping a cape on the bottle. AI is so cool. I love it. It literally turns you into
Wow.
a. Isn't that cool? I love it. Thanks, Pam. So there's our four pillars, right? And the recharge NAD, it's not just NAD. They added NAD, sulforaphane from broccoli seed extract to the formulation of the telomere support. And now we're getting these other added benefits. And they just felt like the name was safer using NAD because of all the studies that have been around that. And it puts them more on that foundation of, not being scrutinized by the FDA and making claims through the name that we had. So, but that's 2 pills a day, your shakes, your cleanse, your Ionic Supreme. Yeah. Just real quick snapshots. The collagen, that's a 2-week result with Susan and just the collagen alone. And then Crystal had tried to get her on the products for like 3 years. And she said, "Man, with these kind of results, and I'm even feeling better. I'm not even taking the elevator. I'm taking the stairs and I'm not craving soda just from our collagen." She said, "Maybe I ought to get on those other products she's been trying to get me on for 3 years."
You can
So
show
within 2
them
weeks,
you can show them my pictures.
Oh yeah, I'll go back to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are before and afters. 6 months, that's 1 year. Just collagen, you guys. And then real quick, and then I'll go to that. We have creatine. It's the cleanest source of creatine that you could actually manufacture. There's a company out of Germany that does it, and we mimic theirs. It can't get any better than that. But they're the only ones on the market that had made it that clean out of Germany. And so we actually produced the lab that has the environment that can do that. $20 for a month's supply of creatine. It's water wash, not acid wash. There's so many differences about creatine. And they're now showing how that's helping with the brain health, the most recent clinical studies. Clear protein that we just came out with, so gentle on the stomach, 20 grams with your branched chain amino acids and leucine, taste amazing. So those are two other products that I had mentioned. So let me grab your pictures and then we'll end there.
So I always encourage people when they start our systems to take baseline picture. And of course I took these never expecting to show them to anybody. They were just for me, but I just now I'm like I got them blown up and I'm showing them to everybody. But so that first one is my baseline picture, and the most astounding really change is 30 days. Um, Under my eyes, I can see a big difference. The nasal labial fold, I can see a difference. And then the third one is 90 days. And you can see how the improvement just continues. And then this bigger one on the right is my 1 year picture. This was taken February 16th of this year. So that's 1 year on all this.
I love what you said too, that you were exhausted after work and just ready
Oh
to.
yeah, I would come home from work and start getting ready for bed. Um, Now I'm productive all the way to bedtime, and I'm at the gym 3 times a week, which I would have done. It took about 4 months. I started in March, about July, the switch flipped, and I thought, oh, I think I want to I think I want to exercise. It took that long before the nutrition caught up with me, and it's it really is it's life changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope with the few changes that it keeps you, more focused and attentive, because the information, that's the main point, right? Is retaining and getting the information. I'm going to unmute this. You guys can, for any gas, we just say get back with the person that got you here to help you get started. Let me unmute
And
this.
we have a promotion right now for new people.
What is it for today? They've been changing it with the 12 days of Christmas.
Yeah, but the one that goes through tomorrow night is for new customers, 25% off your order of 175 or more.
Okay, awesome.
Dave, that means that 2 bottles of the because I just did one of these 2 bottles of the telomere support, you get the second bottle for almost half price.
Mm.
And with the shakes, with 4 shakes, you get 1 canister is completely free. Okay, so it's a huge savings. Unreal.
Yeah.
Looks like they're doing clear protein with certain packs that you buy right now.
Right.
Got free joint support when I ordered some products. So you just needed to order a certain amount, and when I needed to do an order, and so I got free joint support.
Yeah.
But awesome. Okay, let me unmute this. Thanks you guys for joining us today.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Great.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody does this. You do it. And Malcolm.
Thank you. Such a great presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Thank you so much, Dave. Dave, is there a chance I can talk with you? It's Ken here.
Yeah. Message me on Facebook. Give me your phone number.
Wonderful. It's there. It's
Okay.
there. Messenger.
I've got some things I've got to do the rest of this morning and into the afternoon, but I'll call you this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Love you. Thank you for everything.
All right, you guys have a wonderful week.